How's it going, Yankee fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Nick Nielsen. Today, we want to take a look at the priorities for this Yankee team at the trade deadline. We're going to rank them, kind of give our reasons why. Nick has a little bit of a different order than I do, but similar positions and players that obviously we have in mind. Now, of course, everyone's focusing on the Juan Soto trade headlines, but I really doubt that happens. The chances of that happening are probably 5 to less than 5%. I would be more looking at the starting pitching, whether it be Luis Castillo, Frankie Montas. But before we dive into ranking the major needs for this Yankee team, Nick, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm great. First of all, I'm getting really excited for the Somerset event, the Yankees content creator event that Ryan and I are going to be attending on behalf of Empire Sports Media and Fireside Yankees. Looking forward to meeting all sorts of different creators, different people out there that do podcasts, video editing, whatever it may be. It's going to be a really, really fun day. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you to all of the subscribers and followers and fans for making this happen. So thank you. I'm doing really well though. Like, this team is just, I don't know what it is about them. Even when they lose, it's like very frustrating losses, yes. But even when they lose, it's like, all right, we could have easily won that game. Or it's not because they got beat to a pulp. Like yesterday's doubleheader versus Houston was really tough baseball to watch. But in the first game, if the offense could do anything for the first 6 innings, we wouldn't have had that problem. And then the second game, if Domingo Germán did not exist, we would have won that game. So it's like you live and you learn. But as a whole, I'm doing really, really well, man. Excited to talk about some moves, what needs to be done, because there are some things that need to be done.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, looking at the Houston Astros, what they did to us yesterday, obviously just a regular season game. Aaron Boone said it after. It's just a regular season. You know, when the postseason comes around and this is still happening, that's when you have to be a little bit concerned. But I will say this. Houston has given us the most trouble of any team we've played up to this point, and it's not even close, right? There's no other team I can think off the top of my head that has given us this much trouble. And mainly because they have, Baltimore, honestly. But that's just because like they're always trying to play up to the top seed in the AL East. But
hey, dude, they're going to make
somehow
it in the playoffs. Watch.
I was going to say everyone in the AL East is over 500 now, or at 500, which is absolutely absurd. Everybody, including Baltimore, I think is 500 right now.
Yeah, they're 46 and 46, which is awesome for baseball. Awesome.
Yeah, seriously. The AL East is absolutely dominant. And then the fact the Yankees have a 12-game cushion is even more insane. But I'll say this. If you want to look at this team and people will say, oh, well, we have the best record in baseball, so we don't need to make any moves. That is not true. You know, like if you want to win a World Series, you got to make moves. You got to put yourself in a spot to actually win the World Series, let alone get to the World Series, which we haven't done in over a decade. So this team should be active at the trade deadline. And I will start it off saying that my first ranking, the first thing that we need to prioritize more than Juan Soto, more than anything, is another starting pitcher who can pair with Garrett Cole and be that dominant force come October. Because right now, I'll tell you what, Luis Severino was on the injured list. You know, I don't really trust him in the postseason right now. I don't trust James Centillon. I think Montgomery will probably get the 3 spot if they do acquire a guy like Castillo.
Monty would deserve that, though.
I agree.
Lights out. I think
it
was Max Goodman that posted this stat where it's, I think, 14 out of his last 19 starts, he's allowed 2 or less runs. And yeah, you said no run production. He's gotten like 9 decisions in his last 39 starts. Like what?
All 5 walk-offs against the Yankees this season have come when Jordan Montgomery was pitching.
Yeah, that's weird. That's really weird. And I will say Mike King, Mike King's the same thing. Mike King's worst days are when he pitches on the same day as Jordan Montgomery. It's very weird. But Mike King, it makes I get that there's no direct correlation between, you know, King and Montgomery both struggling when they pitch together on the same day. But it is very weird because Mike King has been literally the most valuable reliever in baseball from an F4 perspective. And then when he pitches on Monty days, it's like, what's happening? You're giving up hard contact. You're pitching around batters. You're working full counts. I don't know. It's got to be a mental thing.
It's just random is what it is. Like there's no telling exactly why this happens. But I think, you know, starting pitching for this team come the postseason is going to be the biggest need. Like even if you get Juan Soto, you can't address starting pitching. Like you're giving up everything for Juan Soto. So there is no way you're going out and getting starting pitching. I think that they could probably go out and get a serviceable offensive outfielder to help that unit and just help the production of that batting order, especially towards the second half of it. But in addition, you're looking at also getting a starting pitcher. So I think that the value there is a little bit more, and you're not going to have to give up the whole farm for it. So if I'm the Yankees, if I'm general manager Brian Cashman, I'm going after Luis Castillo, and I'm including Oswald Peraza, and then I'm going after probably a middling infielder guy, maybe on a rental kind of situation where his contract is expiring after this season, maybe like a David Peralta from the Diamondbacks, who's kind of struggling this year, but has some quality to him. I don't know. There's a couple guys you could point to and say these would be upgrades, but I think starting pitching is the number one rank
Yeah.
priority for this team. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I absolutely agree. David Peralta, he's a good outfielder, but he's not a great outfielder. Like Peralta this season is having a worse season than Aaron Hicks is. So it's like I don't even know if like he'd be like the best guy unless we just get him because we got a pitcher and we're like, all right, we need depth. We're not going for that superstar knockout punch acquisition. We're going for what the team needs. And the superstar knockout punch acquisition obviously would be Juan Soto, but we can't live in a world of fantasy all the time. And the odds of Juan Soto coming to the Yankees, I don't see it as very high. Especially because apparently there's a report that broke. I think it was John Heyman that said it, so you probably don't want to believe it. But it basically said along the lines of New York and the Mets don't want to part with what the Nationals are wanting them to part with. And I was like, okay. I get it, but at the same time, it's like this is the window to win a ring. Juan Soto would clearly make you the favorites in the World Series, in my opinion. Like, even if Juan Soto went to someone like the Giants, that team could easily win a World Series. Like, he is that big of a difference maker. But I do absolutely agree that starting pitching is a priority. Pitching wins championships. However, the only contrary like side I have to that is that the Yankees offense has usually been the problem when they lose big games. Like go back a couple years in the postseason, a lot of the times when the Yankees lose, it's like 3-1 game, 2-1 game, 4-0. And it's like, what's happening here? Last year, especially, it was literally we had Gallo batting fifth, and everyone knew just to walk the guy in front of him. So this year, the team's definitely different. It's definitely better, but there are a lot of moves that they have to make to be that clear-cut team. And I'm not saying the Yankees need an all-star at every position. People kind of get that misconception when we say we need someone better than IKF. Because in my opinion, I think shortstop's the biggest need for this team. I know IKF had that great hit the other day, which prolonged the game, prolonged the inevitable loss. But it was also like through the gap on the shortstop third base side. He barely got it through. I didn't even think it was going to get through. And it was on the ground. That's all he does. It's 99% of the stuff he hits is on the ground. So I think that one big thing is that IKF is good at some things, but the things he's bad at really outweigh the things he's good at. So that's why for me, it's like call up Peraza if you're not going to trade him. But if you trade him for Castillo, awesome. However, go get a shortstop then. Because I can't deal with IKF bat. I know he's had a good July, but it's probably been the most uneventful good July I've ever watched. He's been batting like 330 in his last 9 games. And I'm like, I feel like that's a myth. Like, is this one of those fact or fiction posts? But I agree with you. Pitching's a big need. I personally would go shortstop, pitching, and then outfielder because I think we can get Castillo. I just worry that shortstop, the market is so dry for it that if the Yankees even hesitate, there's going to be no one there, and they're going to try to get Castillo, and they will. But then they'll be running out IKF for the rest of the season at shortstop. And I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I know Ryan loves Joey Wendell, and that's an interesting name, 111 WRC plus. So, if you're unaware of that metric, it means he's 11% better than the average MLB player. So, definitely an interesting option there. So there are some targets, but again, like you said, the market's going to drop pretty quickly for shortstop. In my opinion, if you're not going to go and get a shortstop and you're not going to trade for Luis Castillo, you're not going to give up one of your big prospects, just call up Peraza already. Give him a freaking chance.
At this point.
That's my argument. It's like, why acquire a shortstop when you have one that's absolutely crushing in AAA, has so much more power than IKF, and can probably do some good things. So I would love to see what he could do at the big league level if they're not going to trade him. But of course, we'll kind of find out what happens then in the next 2 weeks as the trade deadline gets closer. But my number 2 ranking is actually outfield. I think that offensively, Joey Gallo is an automatic out. Okay, he's fine defensively, but like you can find anybody to play the outfield these days. For goodness sake, we have freaking Matt Carpenter playing in left field.
Yeah.
And just only because his offense is that valuable, which tells you the Yankees value offense over defense in some positions. And I think the outfield is one of them. Now you have Aaron Judge in center field with that impeccable range. I think he can cover a lot of ground and cover some of the liabilities of left field and right field. But then you have Aaron Hicks, who can also take over in left field. So maybe you just take, Hicks, put him in left, and then take Carpenter, and just, it seems like they're kind of swapping him left and right field depending on the short porch situations. Yeah. So I think that they're going to probably continue to do that based on his offensive capabilities the last couple months here. But outfield seems to be a big need because I just don't think that Gallo is going to offer this team much. LeCastro's okay. He's not going to blow anything out of the water, especially during the postseason. You need a guy who's going to actually come up clutch. You need a guy who's going to come up in big moments.
You're right.
whether that be Ian Happ, Brian Reynolds, obviously Benintendi and Taylor don't seem to be on the docket anymore because of their vaccination status. So this is going to be an interesting couple of days as the Yankees try to figure out, do we need an outfielder? Can we trust Joey Gallo? Are we going to trade him for a bullpen arm? Are we going to trade him in something bigger of a package? Personally, I think outfield's a little bit more pressing than shortstop at this moment, just because, you can't trust Giancarlo Stanton out there every day either. So there's just so many moving pieces. IKF at least is a reliable player who's not going to take that much time off. At least he's going to be there every single day, which I think is, a lot of people will say availability is the best stability. So I think that's, and I think your dog clearly agrees with this sentiment.
Yeah, I apologize about that.
It's all good. My cat has absolutely destroyed me. Sometimes I have the litter box in this office, and he's come in here and pooped before while I was podcasting and just smoked me out. It's absolutely brutal.
That's just
nuclear capacity. It's just absolutely insane. And that's kind of why I feel like outfield's a little bit more.
No, your points are great points. You're right. And IKF, that's the thing. He is at least reliable. He is there. He's not really injury prone. I haven't had any reason to believe that IKF has even struggled with needing off days. He's one of those guys that always comes up and hustles, works hard. So I do admire that about IKF. The only problem with IKF is that his best is 100 WRC plus. That's his best. And his average is 85, 87, 90. And I don't know if that's exactly something that I want from our everyday shortstop. I mean, this is the guy that the Yankees were willing to take on Josh Donaldson's $50 million for because they believed in his defensive ability so much and thought he could be a 2-year stopgap at that position, which is why for me, it's this has been one of the bigger disasters in that everyone says he's doing the job. He was just supposed to be a stopgap. Just because you're not absolutely terrible doesn't mean you're doing the job. IKF ranks bottom 5 for every major shortstop category out of starting shortstops in baseball. That is not doing the job. That is forfeiting that position because we said, all right, we got Volpe coming up soon. We can maybe bring up Peraza a little bit sooner than scheduled. But at this point, Cashman needs to get a shortstop or call up Peraza, like you said. But I do think that Castillo, in my opinion, is probably the one that I can book. If I had to guarantee one Yankee trade deadline move, I think I'd have to put all my chips on Castillo to the Yankees. It seems not all but guaranteed, but it seems very likely at this point, especially considering the prospect capital the Yankees are willing to give up and the fact that they've kind of come to terms that Volpe and Dominguez are not at all to be discussed. I could see Peraza going in that deal. But at that point, if we have to deal with IKF for the rest of the season, I may lose my mind. That dude, yeah. Zen.
Take your deep breaths, bro.
But outfield, I think outfield's a need, but I wouldn't say it's a necessity, if that makes sense. It's more of a want than a need, I guess. That's a better way to put it. I think Carpenter playing the outfield and the Yankees running him out there more now means that, like you said, they're willing to just live with his meh defense because his bat is so good. But Gallo being gone means the Yankees are going to probably want to get another outfielder anyways. Or, like you said, Tim LeCastro. Let him do the thing. Because if we don't have to lose another top 10 prospect or two to acquire an outfielder that's marginally better than Hicks, why do that,
Yeah, no, I agree. This is going to be an interesting couple of weeks here as we kind of approach the deadline in terms of who starts to play well, right? Is Aaron Hicks, I know he's been pretty good lately and, has had his moments, had a nice catch yesterday. Diving.
July's been nutty, dude.
July's been great, and I'm really happy to see him starting to pick it up. So now I think he's more of a reliable player, barring injury, of course. Gallo, simply, I can't watch the guy take another at bat. He can't hit a high fastball. He can't hit breaking balls. The guy's basically useless unless it's a freaking meatball right down the middle. Which
he watches those.
And he watches
the sliders down and away. It's what is this?
It's brutal. It's brutal. Look, I appreciate the work ethic, but at this point, I don't care about work ethic. I care about production and actual statistics and numbers and efficiency. And he doesn't have any of those things to justify keeping him any longer. So I think it's time to move on rather quickly. But hopefully the Yankees can get back of the win column against Baltimore today. 3-game series. I think we got Tyler Wells on the mound, one of their best starting pitchers, 3.38 ERA this year, and we have Jameson Taillon on the mound as well. So pretty interesting pitching matchup. Going to be a tough one. The Orioles are no joke, guys.
They're good.
You look at them and it's okay, yes, they're the worst in the AL East, but they're above 500. They can win games. They can beat the Yankees, especially because the Yankees are going through some fatigue issues right now. We don't have Marinaccio, who's, was assigned to AA today to get another rehab start in there.
I hope he stays there till Sunday, dude. I pray to God.
Yeah,
if my prayers are answered,
awesome.
and I could beat Ron, and I could, do a little interview with Ron LaDon for Fireside Yankees.
That would be insane. Oof. That would be like, that would make your
That'd be my moment. I'd be like, all right, I can die now. This is it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But, this team definitely has a couple of issues. Luis Severino's on the IL for a couple more days, maybe a week or two.
A couple more weeks, yeah.
Yeah, probably a couple more weeks, honestly.
Chapman looked better in his last game.
He looked better.
He looked better. That's good. That's
it was
nice
low.
sign.
I think the Astros were just trying to get out of it. They were just like, let's just win. Let's just get through this game. They were already so far ahead. I think it was 7-2 at the time.
7-2. Then Judge made it competitive.
That damn guy had to make it competitive and get our hopes up.
I know. It's like, again, if the Nazi wasn't part of the rotation for whatever reason in hell, he's gotten the start yesterday. We literally had Sears, who came in and shoved 3 solid innings of work. And then we also had Schmidt just sitting in AAA, not doing anything. So it's like, of all people, Domingo Germán continues to get the call when he doesn't deserve it. At this point,
Sears
DFA, the scumbag, terrible human being.
Why would you? He's a bad human being, but like, I just don't get the logic behind starting him against one of the best teams in baseball. Like, way to ruin his confidence and actually prevent him from doing
on the road
positive.
Too. Like
on the road
his first start. What is this?
Go get rocked. Like, they're literally like, let's just go get him rocked against Houston, and then what? And then what? Like, his confidence is shot. I mean, he gave up 5 runs or 6 runs in 3 innings. Like,
he's terrible.
He looked terrible. He looked awful. He was hanging.
He has no great pitch. His movement isn't good. His velocity isn't good. His curveball doesn't move as much. It's much more of a looping curveball like Litge's than it is kind of like the slurves that we see a lot of now. So when he misses, he hangs it and it gets sent 400 feet, as we saw numerous times. The dude just should not be on the Yankees organization. He's absolutely dog water. One of the worst players I've had to watch play with the Yankees for the past couple of years. And he's also just like we said, he's just not a good guy either. Like, I don't know why the Yankees give him so many chances to prove himself when so many times he's proven their efforts futile. Like, why would we give the guy that has a career ERA of like 4.7 more starts? Like, that's not. And the one name that I will say the Yankees are going to be linked to a lot in the next week or two, I bet, and I hope people try to ignore, is Jose Quintana. I absolutely despise Jose Quintana. I don't want him to be on the Yankees. Like, that would be a terrible acquisition. He'd be worse than all 5 of our starting pitchers right now. Anyways, my point with that is that Domingo Germán is just a little bit, in my opinion, of a worse Jose Quintana. So it's like, why are we? Domingo should not be anywhere near the rotation. We saw that yesterday, that we would have won the game if he didn't pitch. If JP Sears started and went 5 innings, he probably would have given up 2 or 3 runs. Domingo went 3 innings and gave up 6. Like, he's just not, or 5. He's just not a good pitcher. Like, and he doesn't have anything good. I don't know. The Yankees need to address starting pitching. Bullpen, I think they can get by on because they have some reinforcements coming. Like, Marinaccio coming will be huge. I imagine Schmidt should be activated here in a week or 2. I don't know how much longer they can continue to deny him a spot. And then, of course, Loaizaga is looking a little bit better. I'm not going to say anything about Chapman because I definitely don't think he's back. But if Chapman can at least be a serviceable 5th or 6th inning mop-up reliever, great. And then Britton comes back at the end of next month, probably. So we got a lot of good things coming. I wouldn't mind getting a bullpen arm as like an add-on or like just like a fill-in piece that we like toss a mid-prospect for, like a Daniel Bard, or maybe we could go even like higher and give up prospects for David Bednar. Like, there's definitely moves out there to be made for bullpen help, but I think that's the least of the Yankees' needs. And I'd imagine you agree with me on that to kind of wrap up the rankings.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Essentially, you got Miguel Castro still on the IL right now. He's coming back. Yeah, you got Marinaccio coming back, who hasn't given up a hit or a run rather in 15 innings. I believe I posted today.
The dude's been a monster.
He hasn't given a run since April 22nd, I believe. The guy's been just monstrous, like an absolute tank.
Run the bullpen.
He's been unbelievable. So, they have support coming back. Zach Britton is coming back, for goodness sake. Who knows what he can provide? So we'll see here, guys. They've given Clay Holmes a lengthy couple of days off, so he's going to be fresh and ready to go. They want him to get as much rest as possible. So I'm optimistic, my friends. I'm optimistic about what this team can do the second half of the year. But let's get back on the win column first and then go from there and see what's up, of course. But guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Would love to hear your rankings below in the YouTube comments. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.